AITAH for telling my wife our son's ridiculous behavior was her fault? I am not the original poster. That is you, original, station, 321. He posted in our AITAH. Trigger warning. Discussion of childhood trauma. Less than. Mood spoiler. Communication helps. Less than. Original post. September 6, 2023. My 48M wife Mary 50F has always coddled our son Mickey 28M. Mickey was born premature and spent time in the NICU. Mary was very protective of him. She was a helicopter parent and constantly overextended herself for Mickey's sake. One thing that annoyed me was that she would constantly hug and kiss our son. That wasn't a problem. The problem was she would be sad and moody if he didn't give her one. She also had a payment for a kiss thing with Mickey. I tried to Mickey would grow older and he wouldn't appreciate being coddled by his mom so much, but she was convinced her precious baby boy wouldn't be a mean nasty man who hated hugs and kisses. I guess she was right. Mickey got married a few years ago to Diane. She's a stand-up woman with a good head on her shoulders. She's straightforward and logical. I was a little worried about Mary because everyone knows how mothers and daughters-in-law don't get along, but she loved Diane. At least until Mickey came to her with his marital problems in the past couple of years. He told Mary Diane was drifting away from him. They were very close to being separated, though I don't think my son would have ever divorced her. Long story short, Diane passed out at the wheel and got into a nasty accident. She was later told she had an autoimmune disease that has fatigue as a side effect. Diane needs a wheelchair most of the time, but she's not paralyzed. Mickey has been taking care of her and he's doing a pretty good job. They seem to have a happy, stronger marriage. Today, my wife was a nervous wreck. She told me Mickey and Diane visited. Our town is not wheelchair friendly, so Diane needs a lot of help. Mary told me that Mickey asked Diane to pay him with hugs and kisses and he was smothering her with affection. I asked Mary if Diane seemed afraid, upset, or annoyed. She said no. I told Mary the first didn't see a problem with an inside joke between a married couple. Mary burst out that it was wrong because of how helpless Diane was. I told her that 1. Diane wasn't helpless, and 2. Our son's ridiculous behavior was her fault. Mary modeled that hugs and kisses were required to show love, and Mickey was doing what he learned. Hell, he learned the whole paying with a kiss from Mary. She stormed off and has been giving me the silent treatment. AITAH? Relevant comments. Your son's behavior probably didn't start with his wife's illness. So NTA. It probably didn't start when Diane got sick. But I know Mickey did it a lot more. I think he feels guilty and worried for Diane's health, so he's showing his love the best way he knows how. I don't know why my wife is so upset. I would have thought she would be flattered and boast that she was right. There is no consensus bot on AITAH, but most comments were NTA. Update post. September 9, 2023. 3 days later. A lot of the responses said that my wife Mary was jealous of Diane, our daughter-in-law, or inappropriately close with Mickey, our son. But she welcomed Diane with open arms and treated her as the daughter she never had. We invited Diane and Mickey over for a bite. Well, Mary did. She commented a few times under breath that Mickey was doing too much PDA and sent him to the grocery store. Then she interrogated Diane on if she felt comfortable, if anything was bothering her, and told Diane to let her know if anything ever worried her because Mary would pick her up. No judgment. I was baffled. Diane thanked Mary but said she was fine. Mickey came back and we had a nice time, though I noticed Mary kept an eye on them the entire time. They were at our home. After they were gone, I turned on Mary and asked her what the hell she was doing. She stammered that she had no idea what I was talking about. I told her she was being really weird and asked her point blank if she was jealous that Mickey was doing their thing with Diane. She broke down and said she wasn't jealous. She was downright uncomfortable. Then she told me that she hated the way Mickey used an innocent thing between mother and child for husband and wife. I asked her why it bothered her. She said that it looks bad a man demanding affection in exchange for helping his physically disabled wife. She emphasized that Diane was more helpless here than she could be. We live in a mountainous town that's not wheelchair friendly. Diane can't drive anymore. She had to rely on Mickey. Mary had to ask Diane and make sure she was really okay. I asked her if she had so little trust in her own son to be a good person. Mary said her own father seemed like a good person to others, but he was not a good father or husband. Mary's late mother was physically disabled and likely had anxiety and depression because of her disability and her husband's controlling behavior. She wasn't allowed to go out of the house and had no money. Her husband threatened to throw her in an asylum if she tried to leave, with or without the kids. So Mary's mother, my Mill, would reward children with kisses and hugs if they helped her out. They did chores, like washing dishes or laundry or helping her make a meal, in exchange for extra hugs and kisses since her mother didn't have an allowance to give them. Her mother passed away when she was a teenager. Mary had never mentioned much of her childhood before now. Mary passed that tradition down to Mickey, but it changed it a little bit since she liked to spoil Mickey. Seeing it in a not parent-to-child context and with Diane being physically disabled was pretty disturbing to Mary, and she was getting panic attacks thinking about it. Mickey does look like his grandfather. He takes after Mary's features, so I think it also made her upset. I sat her down and said that I understood where she was coming from and we could figure it out together. I called up Mickey and told him the history behind his grandparents, and Mickey said he got Wyatt trigged his mom and he wouldn't do it in front of Mary anymore. Mary said that she felt hurt. I assumed she was jealous and insecure of Diane instead of worried for her. I deeply hurt her feelings. I apologized, but she's still hurt. Edit. I got messages saying I was unclear on what Mickey was doing that made my wife so upset. So, Mary's mother would give Mary a hug and a kiss for doing the dishes. For example, Mary would give her mom a hug for making dinner or sewing up her clothes. Since her mom didn't have much energy, when Mary had Mickey, she would get him ice cream or a trip to the park and ask for a hug in exchange. Now, when Diane needed help getting in our house, Mickey would joke that he would help in exchange for a kiss. Or he would help her at meals and ask for a hug or kiss then. Now, Mickey would never not help his wife if she didn't give him a kiss. Just like Mary wouldn't have denied him a snack or a trip to the park as a kid if he didn't want a hug. But it's triggering for Mary because of her past. Mickey promised to stop making the a kiss as payment joke, not stop affection with Diane. I feel bad because Mary said I assume the worst of her. Maybe it was the natural conclusion, but I shouldn't have accused her and just asked her what was going on. Generational trauma can make people behave in strange ways. It's heartbreaking how much control trauma has on our lives. This is actually really sad. I hope with better communication, the whole family heals. I feel for everyone involved here. No one is at fault. They were behaving accordingly to the knowledge and perception they had. Definitely thought it was going to be a jealousy thing. I spend too much time on Reddit. It really irritates me when people demand hugs and kisses from kids. So grandma or grandpa from the grandkids when they arrive and then leave after visiting sort of thing. A lot of the time the kids don't want to If they do and do it spontaneously, then no issues. But sometimes they are just not comfortable with physical contact in general, or they don't feel comfortable, barely know their grandparents, or just don't want it then. It's more when it's a make the kids feel guilty about not wanting to do what someone else wants. But I'm big on bodily autonomy, and there's the issue of grooming, i.e. it's expected even if it's creepy old uncle whoever, because their parents will not be happy if they don't. I remember my husband trying to make me feel guilty that I didn't kiss and hug his parents hello and goodbye as an adult, because I don't do that because I'm not comfortable. He wanted me to make the kids do it too. Turns out they all have ASD and aren't all into touch like that. And come to think of it, it was never expected in my family when I was a kid. Though I was more than happy to do with my grandmother, as I was fairly close to her. But wow, with the update on Mary with the trauma she experienced. I hope she gets the therapy she needs. But even without it, she's recognized there was an issue and what it was. Mickey sounds like he hasn't been affected by his upbringing and is a normal person with a normal response. It's just Mary that's been triggered because of her childhood. If Diane hadn't become disabled, this may never have come out. As odd this is, posts like this are eye bleach compared to some of the stuff that this subreddit sees. All's well that ends well, I suppose. I'm mostly disappointed that Mary's discomfort stole Mickey and Diane's little thing. As somebody with a disabled spouse, I know that she can sometimes feel guilty and helpless with the aid I am required to give her. Diane probably was comforted and grateful that she has something to pay back with for all the little acts of assistance Mickey does throughout the day. I am sure everyone will be fine, though. It stinks that trauma can really control and shape someone's life. I feel bad for those who have to experience trauma, especially those who have dealt with a form of abuse in the past. Communication here seems to work, but I wish the best for everyone in the future. I get why the wife's feelings are hurt, but honestly, context removed, what other likely explanation for her behavior could there possibly be? She'd never discussed her childhood in any detail with her husband. He didn't know the history behind their little ritual, and she didn't explain things to him, despite him asking what was going on multiple times, until after he'd already drawn his own conclusions. How could Oop have been expected to connect the dots? Trauma makes people behave in odd and often unpredictable ways. I know firsthand, but we can't expect people to read our minds. I'm not sure what else Oop could have done, tbh. I just hope they're able to work past this. They all seem like sweethearts just trying to be aware of others' needs. I honestly love that Mary went to bat for Diane, even though it would be her own son being abusive. That says a hell of a lot about her character to me. Lots of parents stand by their abusive children, and to be honest, I understand why. It takes a hell of a lot of strength to go against that parental instinct. I'm so glad to hear it wasn't necessary, though. Also, as a married woman with a chronic illness, just have to say I appreciate the hell out of Mickey for stepping up. Spending time on a chronic illness subreddit and in the community will teach you just how rare that is. And of course I want to give props to Oop. When I read the original title, I assumed the worst, but it was, for the most part, just a small concern. Oop seems like he's got a level head on his shoulders. I love that he spoke honestly, genuinely reached for open communication, and took action once he knew what was wrong. What the hell is it like to have a family of people who are this aware of their traumas and willing to share openly with each other? We always have to crack some booze before anyone'll unclench. This gone sound weird, but I genuinely found it wholesome how much everyone in story cared about each other, even when mom was completely misguided. I keep trying to make up my mind whether mom freely giving her son affection was a good thing for him to learn and take on, or if treating it like a sort of currency was bad precedent to set. I mean, as long as he treats it as a light-hearted joke between partners with his wife, I guess it's all good. But I can see the potential for it to become smothering or manipulative. I'm glad Mary's feelings were out of concern for Diane rather than jealousy. She's a better Mill than many we hear about on Reddit. Mary said that she felt hurt. I assumed she was jealous and insecure of Diane instead of worried for her. That was the only logical conclusion. You'd have to be a mind reader to know Mary's family history. So in Mary's mind, the payment for a kiss thing is wrong, with Diane a disabled adult, but not wrong with an impressionable child? Also, according to Oop, if that child didn't want to kiss or hug back, his mom got upset. Kinda weird how OOP's wife is upset that he assumed the worst when she did the same to her son. Yikes. Great example of why people should get therapy for childhood trauma before having children. That interaction sounds so weird in adults. I've never seen anything like that. This story had a disturbing quality. What at first seemed like the story of a ridiculous woman who had too much free time and invented her own problems changed to be the story of a woman who relived the trauma of her childhood due to the actions of her son.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.